Yeah. True story, you dealing with the best in chess. Fish gang, where you at? Time to represent. Coach, show them how we run it. It's time to do it big. Let the world stream live. You can find him on Twitch. Right from the opening until he holla checkmate. Coach keep it entertaining, yeah, all day. Some people donate, some try to hate. Tell them don't hide. Check them online, chess.com. Yeah, that's where it goes down. He don't see no competition every time he look around. People yelling true story, sounding like Coach. If you ready, come rock with him. You know how it goes. Hey, yeah.
What's up, people? This is Coach. We in the house. Today's VOD is a game that I played in Memphis recently, Memphis, Tennessee, against a 2300. I had his name, but it eludes me now. It'll come to me. I'll probably add it as an edit. But anyway, I had the black pieces, and let's roll through this game real quickly. At this point in the tournament, I think this was round 3. Yeah, this was round 3, and I had drawn a game and won a game. Unfortunately, I started the tournament off with a draw against a lower rated player, and I wasn't terribly excited. I wasn't really feeling like I was in form or anything, and just a little anxious. Also, I played in this 4-round event, time control game 60 with a 5-second delay, because I saw that there were several masters participating, and there were 3 masters in this tournament, with the 2300 that I'm playing in this round as the highest rated player. And my objective was to try to get 2 games against masters out of the 4. So a win in this game would guarantee me a second shot at a master in the final round, which was the whole point of the trip. So here we go. I get the black pieces against the 2300, and he plays d4. I play g6 going into a modern. He plays e4. I just play naturally bishop g7. One of the reasons I like the modern is, unless they do something crazy like shoving this pawn down right away, there's not a lot that can prevent black from doing what he wants to do in the opening. So it also gives me the opportunity to, establish, some scope on this diagonal with my bishop. So these first several moves were played relatively quickly, but when I see this kind of pawn structure, I normally get annoyed, because it kind of gets into a King's Indian type structure that's a little bit crampish for me. And right away, I was just saying to myself during the game, oh, here we go. Now I got to try to, bust through this guy's defenses in a positional situation, and he's, 300 points higher than me. So I play d6 because I want to be able to develop my knight and still be able to move around should one of these pawn pushes come. So we continue. He plays knight c3, and then I played e5. This is a new move for me. But my idea is, I'm not a fan of losing the flexibility to be able to get some kind of lever on these pawns, or some kind of pawn break. So I just wanted him to define his intentions right now. And the only move that, I think that is reasonable in this position is for him to push past, because he can't capture. That would be great for my bishop. So he does just that. He pushes past. So now I get this pawn push, and I get f5. And that's what I did. I played f5 right away. And I'm arguing that the open f file is going to be dangerous for you once I get castled, putting pressure on the weakest square on the board for the white side, which is f2. Then when he develops here, I change my mind, because I like the idea of this bishop staying behind these pawns. And I'm making those green, but those should be red. It's blue. There we go. And this bishop is also having some issues. So I'm a fan. I don't know where his bishops are going. So I just said, okay, fine. Now, when he does this, this immediately says, no, you're not going to trap all my pieces in. And I just went ahead and took it because my objective is to apply pressure on the F file. He counters with pressure on the H file, which is annoying, true story. And then he plays this move. I really was expecting bishop G5. And, you know, this is a real tournament. We're taking notation. You know, we're actually writing our moves down. And before I can complete writing my move down, knight F6, the bishop appeared on the H6 square. And I was expecting it again to go here. So when he did this, I immediately castled. I was like, well, that's not harmful. And then these next couple of moves went relatively quickly. Now, I am not going to go to sleep, even though I could just quietly move my king and take this opportunity to get some moves in, because it's going to be difficult for him to make this knight move anytime soon. But I just didn't feel like I wanted to entertain this, because there's a possible buildup, you know, after, say, knight F3 and then possibly knight G5, you know, the H7 square is going to be looking a little soft, and just not really feeling that. So I just pushed the pawn. And again, one of my principles is avoid pushing the pawn in front of the king unless it absolutely stops mate. Well, you know, there was some long-term pressure getting ready to occur had I allowed white to get his queen on the H6 square. So, you know, I would argue that this does go towards the idea of avoiding being mated, even though, you know, there's still some pressure that's getting ready to happen. He castles queenside. I develop my knight. I want to try to get him moving. He pushes. I ignore it because I'm going to replace the pawn if he takes. He retreats the bishop because he doesn't want me to have the bishop. I've got 2 on this square. He has to be mindful. I take my tempo, developing my last minor piece. He slides over, develop my queen, also giving me the idea that I can take with another piece. He slides in there. Maybe he wants to do something like this. I try to prevent him from coming in. I don't really want that to be an option. Now he wants to trade bishops. I'm going to slide over and replace the bishop with my queen, which will put some long-term pressure on the king side with his structure. He says no. I want to be able to win and take, so we capture the minors come off. Now it's knights versus knights. Now I'm a fan. I love knights, but I also have to be aware that he's got 2 knights also, and they're a little tricky. So this move is designed to prevent him from capturing this pawn in the middle of the board right away, because he would be losing a piece. He moves the knight out of the way, possibly threatening to come in here. I slide over, replacing the vertical pressure on the E file that used to have my queen involved. I replace with the rook. He slides over. Now I'm eyeing the idea of being able to take or possibly take here. Just regrouping. Maybe I'll push. I don't know. I'm just trying to improve my pieces. Maybe I'll double my rooks. I want him to make the move. So he comes over. I'm not afraid of pawn takes pawn discovering on my queen. I will eat both rooks. I'm that guy. When he does this, though, this kind of hints that, you know, he's going to own the F file, and I'm not a fan. So I went ahead and snapped this right now. He's threatening discover check, winning the queen in so many different lines. It's time to move the girl. He tickles my knight, and I'm on this square 3 times, but he's on it twice. I could have taken this pawn. Why didn't I take this pawn? Something spooked me. Oh, after taking the pawn, maybe he plays rook over. I don't know. I probably should have just snapped this pawn. I'll look at it later. But this pawn is looking juicy in hindsight. And instead, I played the bad move. I moved backwards. And, you know, moving backwards is not what we should be doing, but coach did it. And this might be the first opportunity for me to say, hey, there was an obvious improvement. Because they tell my students all the time, you know, avoid going backwards. So there was a blatant forward move that I didn't really calculate too deeply. I'm just going to look at it one more time. I'm clearly on this pawn 3 times, and it's a fork. So, shit. I should have probably took that pawn. Oh, wait a minute. I can't take that pawn. What am I talking about? Knight takes pawn. And he plays rook takes knight. No, I can't take that pawn. But anyway, it still looks interesting. Even though I can't take it, it does look interesting. Another move that looks interesting is knight here. Knight there, queen check. King has to step here. Queen takes pawn check, and then he blocks with a knight. And then I'm looking stupido. So that doesn't quite work either. Unless, yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, so knight there doesn't work. Knight takes pawn doesn't work because he can just rip it off right away. So maybe my move was okay. Let's just calculate one more thing. I want to see if there's anything else I can do. Nope, I think I did play the right move. Okay, fine. So the knight retreats. He goes ahead and forks me. A lot of pressure here. I kill the knight. He takes the rook. I take his rook. He takes my rook. And now I get a knight and a pawn for the rook. But I do have the 2 tricky knights. And I'm not, I'm not upset about this. I can play from this position. So he slides his queen up 1 square. I try to create some open attacking lanes, so I just jettison the pawn. He says no, we capture. And now I am still trying to create lanes for me to be able to come in. I need to be able to start making his king move. So he jumps in here. This pawn is not under attack because it's protected by the knight, but it is, the queen is under attack. And if I decide to say go check this way, then once he gets on this dark square, I won't be able to get control over it again. So I didn't go that way. I took this check. He comes out, which is kind of surprising. I thought he was going to block right away. Check again. He blocks. Check, check. We repeat this position a couple times, and then he aborts. Now I cut off communication on this diagonal because one of the checks that I wanted to take would allow him to block and check me. So now that that diagonal is blocked, it gives me another attacking lane. He tickles, I check, and this is the check that I was worried about that would force the queens off. So now that the queens are not being forced off and my pawn is protected, I'm going to go ahead and eat the G pawn, which now gives me 2 pawns and a knight for the rook, which would be equal. However, he is going ahead and putting pressure on my queenside complex right away, simultaneously putting pressure on the knight on e5, which was very fast. And I don't have any way to check him on these squares. My only check is on the g5 square. So we continue. I slide over. I'm interested in this pawn. He takes. I take my check since the knight moved. I take another pawn. He slides over. Now his king is a little exposed. And I'm holding the knight. So I eat the knight. And guess what? That's 2 knights for a rook. So we got to be winning. He pushes, I block. So right now we're officially winning. Sad thing is there's a time scramble going on, and we're approaching the end of my notation because I couldn't record. My opponent had like 6 seconds left. 6 seconds on the clock. I take some checks. He offered a draw. I turned down the draw, and I ended up losing this game in a time scramble, unrecorded, with the entire tournament hall watching. expert player playing a 2300 player, and I lose this with him having 6 seconds on the clock. So for me, there was a couple of lessons. One, the fact that I can even get this kind of position against a 2300, you know, I'm a fan, and that tells me I need to be playing more masters in slow time control so that I can get my endurance up. I was disappointed with the result. I could have obviously accepted a draw. I did not accept a draw because I was winning, but there was a draw for me to have. And the other thing is, had I had more experience playing this level of opponent, I probably would have just secured a draw. And by the way, a draw or a win puts me in strong contention to win the tournament. So I'm going to go ahead and close with that. And I thank you all for watching.
Yeah. True story, you dealing with the best in chess. Fish gang, where you at? Time to represent. Coach, show them how we run it. It's time to do it big. Let the world stream live. You can find him on Twitch. Right from the opening until he holla checkmate. Coach keep it entertaining, yeah, all day. Some people donate, some try to hate. Tell them don't hide. Check them online, chess.com. Yeah, that's where it goes down. He don't see no competition every time he look around. People yelling true story, sounding like Coach. If you ready, come rock with him. You know how it goes. Hey, yeah.